Shalom, it's the 8th of May. In my preparation for the study which I hope to present next Friday, we're in James chapter 4. And today we're going to look at verse 5 that talks about the desire and the jealousy of Yahweh because of His Spirit that dwells within us. There's a yearning and a jealousy from Yahweh's point of view because of us being His temple. That's more or less what James is trying to tell us. But just thinking about that raise a question, because when you look at the word jealousy, which is the Greek word thonos, it means desire, and it's got a envious connection to it. So it's more or less a word that's connected to sinfulness, or the sinful nature of man, which is based on their selfishness, their ego, and their selfish desires. And how can you connect that to Yahweh's character? So what does this phrase actually mean then? So the answer is, of course, found within the root word of the word for jealousy. And that word means to defile or to destroy. So now we see that jealousy, first and foremost, from a negative perspective, will defile you and will destroy you, but that doesn't sit well with connected to Yahweh's character. So what does this really mean? Now that word, the root word for jealousy, which is defile and to destroy, is found in 1 Corinthians 3:70, which says that if you defile your temple or destroy your temple, Yahweh will destroy you because of His Spirit dwelling within you. Now we see the context of jealousy. Jealousy is based on the premise that it has to do with the dwelling place of Yahweh and the defilement of the dwelling place of Yahweh. Yet again, we see the connection to us being the body of Messiah, that we need to be undefiled, without spot, without blemish. And that automatically links us back to the theme of what we already looked at, which is the covenant, and specifically the marriage covenant, so that the bride can be pure, set apart, undefiled, ready for her groom to come and gather her. It's part of the betrothal process where they are engaged, and the 2-year process that the groom will go away, prepare a place on his father's household or on the father's land, whether he built a room onto the house of his father or whether he built on his property. He has 2 years to do that preparation, and then he will come back and collect his bride. Now, during those 2 years, the bride need to be ready, waiting on the groom, and she need to be set apart, only allowing interaction with the groom when he arrives, but prior to that, not to have any interaction, any sexual interaction, flirting or whatever. The modern idea of doing that is to test drive everybody, and then you live together, and then you see if you're compatible, and maybe when the kids insist, then you'll get married. So that is the upside down view of the marriage covenant, which is absolutely not the covenant. From my point of view, when you engage in a sexual act, that is where the covenant is established. So any sexual deed with anybody will establish that covenant between you and that person. And if you have multiple partners, you have multiple covenants with multiple people, and that is against Yahweh's will. The covenant is pure, is holy, and is sacred, just like His temple is pure, holy, and sacred. So we need to not defile our bodies with sin in order to stay pure and set apart as the bride awaiting the coming of the groom. So that's the context of the jealousy. The yearning is more for the yearning for the bride. And the jealousy is a jealousy that a groom will have for his bride. Now, if you are engaged to be married, you don't want to marry a bride that is defiled by others in between the process of the first part of the covenant and the second part of the covenant, or the marriage covenant, or based on the Hebrew marriage covenant. So the groom will not want to take a bride that's not a virgin, a bride that's been defiled by others, because he played the harlot. And that's what we looked at yesterday. The female form of adulteress has to do with the body of Messiah, or Israel, or the people of Yahweh, who defiled themselves with worldliness, with worldly people. And that is what Yahweh don't want. He doesn't want a bride that is defiled. Just going back to the jealousy. So Yahweh has this holy jealousy for his people. And this jealousy is a pure jealousy. It's not one that's based on sin. It's not something that will cause you to sin. It's something that will give you that desire and yearning for something that is pure. Now, the Hebrew word that means the same as destruction and defilement is found in Daniel 6 verse 4, where it talks about Daniel and his friends being faithful, doing the right thing, and the authorities of that kingdom could not find any fault in them. So that's another meaning of the Hebrew word for defilement, is also to be at fault. So in there we see the remedy or the solution to the problem. How do we keep ourselves undefiled and holy so that we will not defile our temple, and then Yahweh will allow us to be destroyed by our own sin, of course, if we are keeping on and being stubborn, continuing in our sin. We need to be faithful. That's the key. And the word faithful is based on the principle of truth, receiving the truth and being faithful in that truth that you receive. And the truth, of course, is Yahweh's word. So faithfulness equals obedience of Yahweh's word. Yahweh's word contains his commandments. His commandments is the expression of his character. And if you obey his commandments and it becomes natural, you are actually adopting his character inside yourself. And that's what the phrase to write the commandments on your heart means. Your heart basically signifies your nature, the part of you that let you act in a certain way. So Yahweh wants to change the way we conduct ourselves from the inside out. He's not interested in us doing his commandments mechanically. He doesn't want us to give him lip service or just do the letter. He wants us to internalize his word and walk in his ways spontaneously, coming from the heart. And that's also what it means to fulfill his commandments. It is to do it unto completion with the right motive coming from the heart. So that's all I have for you today. Just clarify that phrase, and I'll speak to you soon. Have a lovely day.